Hello, welcome to Stretty News TV. Myself and Serge are joined by Mike Keegan from the Manchester Evening News, journalist that covers United news, City, Old Town, and everything Manchester really when it comes to football. How are you, Mike?
I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. How are you? Bit jet lagged, but other than that, all right.
Busy week. I hear you're away for it.
Yeah, well, I was in. As luck would have it, I was in Boston when Fergie announced his retirement, and I was in Utah on holiday with the other half when it emerged that David Moyes was getting the boot. So yeah, next time I go on holiday, the new man might get the bullet. So we'll see.
You're avoiding the workload, so.
It's not a very skillful trait to have as a journalist. You wait, like London buses, you wait a lifetime for United managers to leave, and then you get to it once and you miss them both. So yeah, not the best. I'm soon immersed myself in it as soon as I got back, though.
Sure.
Sports editor was almost waiting for me at the airport. It was nice.
Very good. Well, I believe, Serge, you have a few questions for Mike before I get into the media side, to some of the stories.
Yeah, I was purely interested for me in terms of what the MEN had on the Moyes issue. I mean, one of the questions that I wanted to hear was when did you guys actually first hear about Moyes being on the verge of being sacked? What was said.
I think it's a difficult one for me because I was away for it, so everything that I'm getting really has come second hand from people who were there at the time. I was actually climbing a mountain in Utah at the time with no reception, so I went one better. I honestly had absolutely no idea of what was going on, and I had a couple of text messages when I came down. I think the guys at the office had seen the story start to appear on Twitter and on various forums, and it was then a case of checking it out with the club. I think the guidance from the club, which allowed us to run with the story, was that they wouldn't want to comment on rumours, but they would not rule out rumours that he'd been sacked. So I think that gave us the confidence to run with a story that basically said United have failed to failed to dismiss rumours that they've decided to sack David Moyes, and that was pretty much like everybody else on Monday afternoon.
Sure, I mean in terms of what we've seen previously with I've mentioned this before with the singing section, with the way Manchester United have obviously dealt with PR terribly over the past year or so in terms of the singing section, not consulting fans and whatnot. So based on that, this is rather another classless act from Manchester United by briefing journalists. Do you not think, or?
I don't know if it is. I think that's a bit of a leap of faith to say that journalists were briefed. I can't go into the ins and outs of it because I don't want to get anyone into trouble. But the version of events that I've been given is that this was down to a journalist using a bit of nous, who's managed to get the story himself rather than somebody actively seeking out journalists to say that this was the position. So I think my thoughts on this are that there is maybe somebody out there who was a bit upset at not getting the story and is now going into a bit of scaremongering as a reaction to not getting the story at the same time other people got the story. And I think with regards to the story that's out there about the New York Stock Exchange being upset and threatening sanctions, I think that's an absolute load of nonsense.
But saying that, Mike, Monday, obviously, that's when the kind of story started to get a bit of ground, and that's when people started to jump on and kind of say, well, there could be a real possibility of this happening in the coming hours, or the next 24 hours even. But even Monday, it wasn't confirmed, but obviously you touched on how people in the office had rang the club and they wouldn't comment, but they wouldn't deny that he was about to be sacked.
Yeah.
I personally thought it was terrible. Now, I wanted Moyes out. I didn't think he would ever man for the job. But I thought it was terrible with the way it was dealt with. Because Monday, you had fans on social media, journalists talking about it. journalists, that's their job. I'm not going into that. What I'm saying is you had fans kind of speak so confidently about it before the man even really knew, Moyes himself, that he was going the next 24 hours. Like, it wasn't confirmed, but we were speaking so kind of confidently about it. Do you not see?
Dale, just to touch on that. I mean, even more so, Mike. It's not as though Moyes applied for this job. He was almost given the job. And I feel like the media and Man United almost have dragged him through the mud.
I wouldn't say the media dragged him to the mud. I think he's done that himself, really.
Well, look, I mean, it certainly didn't help with the report coming out. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
I think, there is no doubt that David Moyes, you strip away everything football-wise, he's a decent guy, and nobody likes the way that it's transpired, and clearly he's upset with the way it's happened. There's a lot of, it's quite a complex thing, there's a lot of different factors at play, and I know it shouldn't make a difference, but it does. Just the fact that it's happened the story's come out on a bank holiday, so it shouldn't make a difference, but it does. There's not the level of staff in there. I don't know. It is. You're right. I don't think it was well planned. I think it's basically a journalist doing their job who's done very well to come up with this. And then, I mean, I don't know what the conversations were at United that have gone on behind the scenes. I think the press office may have just turned around and said, "Look, we can't confirm or deny it because we don't know. Nobody's briefed us otherwise." And that's how it's transpired. And nobody's been able to give a definite answer until we get the email on Tuesday after Moyes has been brought in at 4:30 in the morning.
Sure, but with all due respect, I'm sure the press office get asked lots of questions. Are United signing this person? I'm sure they can't say yay or nay because they don't know. So that kind of answer is you can't say yes or we can't say no. To the rumours. Could be said for anything really.
Yeah, and it is a lot of the time. Believe me.
Maybe that's where all these funny stories come up from.
It's very rare that you would not just United. You would go to anybody's press office really and say, "Look, on the record, say United for example, I believe that you're interested in Toni Kroos and you want to bring him from Bayern Munich." It's very rare that you get a press officer to go on the record and say, "Yeah, you're right, we are in for Toni Kroos." So it's not. I don't really know many journalists who would phone a press office really and seriously expect somebody to tell them whether certain player was going to sign for them or not. It's kind of
maybe if someone was leaving the next day.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If they don't know, then they can't really tell you one way or the other.
I accept that. But I mean, obviously once Moyes was sacked, there seemed to be a lot of relief within the fans and also within the club. I mean, I'm saying that almost speculative. What am I trying to say? Dale, help me. I'm speculating. I'm almost speculating on that. So I mean, what I don't know if you know, but what was the feeling like within the club? As far as you're aware, once Moyes was sacked.
I think from what I've heard, and this is, I've only spoken to a couple of people who would know. There's a lot of good people at United, and a lot of people at United who feel very, very saddened by the way things have worked out with David Moyes. Despite what you'll read, there was a lot of people there who had a lot of time for him who wanted him to succeed, and there was certainly in many quarters jumping up and down when he got the boot. I think Ryan Giggs, I spoke to somebody today, and Ryan Giggs has embraced his opportunity. He's got a spring in his step by all accounts. He's already not afraid to make his own impact. And the first thing he did was switch the press conference tomorrow, which Fergie used to have his press conferences at 9:30 in the morning. When Moyes came in, I don't know for what reason, he switched it to 1:30 in the afternoon. First thing Giggs has done is moved it back to 9:30 in the morning, which we tend to read too much into these kind of things, but that would seem to suggest that he's already identified things that he didn't think were right, that shouldn't have been changed, and that he switched back. So you hear the stories. The players have been very, very quiet on Twitter, which that's an interesting one as well.
Do you
All the
think with
stories I'm
that,
hearing
Mike?
are that there are a lot of people who aren't too upset, shall we say, with the fact that David Moyes is no longer the manager.
Do you think with that, with the players on Twitter, what I read into, my own assumption on that is, if you see a few nights ago, you Rio Ferdinand make a few tweets and it angered lots of fans the night before he was sacked. Now I didn't
Yeah.
read much into myself, but also you have members of the LMA said the club went about in a really unprofessional manner. Are the club looking at this, would you think, kind of a PR kind of way, kind of saying to the players, look, stay away from Twitter for a few days, don't comment on the managed situation, because, look, footballers can say a few daft things on Twitter and they can get their clubs into deep water.
Yeah, I think, well, Ferdinand was the daftest one when he was saying that it's no wonder there's such a distance between players and fans when they can't express themselves.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the fact that some of them are getting paid 250, 300 grand a week. That doesn't put any distance between players and fans at all.
Sure. What did he mean by that? What I couldn't read into that tweet. Couldn't quite understand what he was trying to say.
I think he's trying to say that in this world that we have, the players are stopped from saying what they really want to say to the press, and as a result, the fans only get the club's version of it rather than the players. I think one telling thing about that, and something I've experienced in the past, when a manager has left the club, you often get a couple of players who are quick to go onto Twitter and say, really sad to see him go, players have to take responsibility, etc., etc. And we've not had one Manchester United player do that, and I think that is quite telling.
I mean, even more so, you look at Moyes' leaving note, should we say, which he left with the management association, where he said, where he thanked everybody at the club, bar the players. He didn't mention anything about the players.
Yeah. See, one could argue that you're reading too much into that, but on his Everton leave, he did thank the players. And I think, this weekend at Norwich and the next 4 games, with Giggs in charge, I do feel the players have a real kind of point to prove, because if they come out and they play really well again, under Giggs, I'm sure he'll have the right mentality instilled again, but they need to prove that it wasn't their fault. They have something to prove this weekend. I don't think it was the players' fault. I think personally, whether you agree or not, Mike, a lot of the squad this season. I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. This squad, I know, it's a good squad. People are nitpicking in areas, and the midfield is a worry, the left back is a worry, but it's not as bad as people make out to be. We got Van Persie, Wayne Rooney, Juan Mata, Januzaj, exciting players, but United aren't playing exciting football.
Sure, I mean, yeah. Just to add on to that, Dale, you got to remember, we were the champions that won the league by 11 points, plus Marouane Fellaini and Juan Mata. So, I don't understand, how we performed so badly if it was just the players.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, but then you can turn that round and say, well, how on earth do the players that win the league so comfortably end up being in 7th place?
Yeah.
How can their performance change that much just based off the change of manager? I think John Barnes made a good point about this when he was at Liverpool, when Souness came in and replaced Dalglish, and he said that under Dalglish, the players knew that if Liverpool ever lost a game, nobody would ever question the manager. It'd be the players' fault. And it was the same at United under Fergie. United ever lost, maybe not at the start, but certainly after the first 4 years, nobody would ever turn around and say, Alex Ferguson's had a nightmare there. Whereas with the new guy, they know that if they turn in a poor performance, then they can blame that, or people will blame that on the manager. They did it with Souness, and they've done it with Moyes. And I think that's quite an important safety blanket for them psychologically to fall back on, because they know that it's not necessarily going to be them that are made the scapegoats for it. And I think he's made mistakes clearly, and I don't think he was the right man for the job. I think Mourinho should have got the job, but there are a lot of mitigating factors as to why this hasn't worked out, and I don't think you can either blame it on the players or the manager. I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, just Mike, just a few questions in terms of the media's coverage the day following the sack, and I have the Mirror in front of me. They basically touch on the share price up and down, and it rocketed to 6% after the sacking. You've got some quotes from Paul McGrath and Roy Keane basically blaming players for the accident. Paul McGrath blames the players, and Roy Keane says that the players should be, they're a disgrace. He's saying.
This is Roy Keane, who's coming back to United as Van Gaal's number 2, if you believe some papers. Yeah.
Would you rule that out?
Well, he's not going the right way about it, is he? He's slagging them all off.
But I think.
I would be very. I spoke to somebody at United about this today, and the gist of the conversation, they wouldn't say either way, but I would be very, very, very surprised if Roy Keane came back to United. Not just because he slagged the players off, not just because the class of '92 are going to be involved with whoever it is, but mainly because of his relationship with Ferguson that I don't think they'll ever repair.
But if you look at those stories, some people got it in their mind that those stories came from Ireland. They didn't. They came from Holland. I'm not going to say whose people they came from, but I think if that one man got the job, I don't think we can rule it out. I think, if you look at it from this point of view, if Louis van Gaal did get the job, he's going to want to put a dent on that job. He's going to kind of want to rule out what Ferguson had done. This is my time right now, something Moyes kind of did, but there was still kind of talks that he was in Fergie's ear or whatnot. But he's going to want to put his own dent on a job from the first second, really. And him getting in Keane as an assistant, it would do that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think it'd be brilliant personally. Keane would be ideal as long as he could merge it with his island stuff, because I can't imagine he'd want to let Martin O'Neill down and leave that pretty much before they've even started. I put the question to somebody at United today and said, would there be any chance of Roy Keane coming back? And the answer that I got was that the manager will be charged with bringing in his own backroom staff. However, the club want to retain an image of not an image, that's the wrong word. The club want to retain a sense of Manchester United tradition within the backroom staff. And it was made quite clear that people like Giggs, Neville, Scholes, Butt will remain part of the backroom staff. And it was also made clear that they would not look favourably upon anybody that they thought would upset that dynamic. And by that, I thought they were referring to Roy Keane.
Sure. Just furthermore, just adding on to the Neville score, in terms of the backroom staff, is that first team backroom staff? Because obviously not Neville, Butt and Scholes were previously involved with the under-19s, was it?
It was Butt, wasn't it? And he got Scholes in to give him a lift. Mm-hmm. That wasn't stipulated. It was just that they would remain part of the backroom staff.
Or Manchester United as a club.
Yeah, exactly.
Dale, furthermore, just on the Moyes point. Obviously, he brought with him a couple of his own cronies in Steve Brown and Jimmy Lumsden. Have we heard anything, on the back of them? Obviously, I think they've taken a lot of the hits, so to speak, from a lot of the players in terms of training and whatnot. They don't like the way they are coached, or what were your thoughts on that?
Myself, I think there's certainly not many players who are upset that they've gone. But what I would say is that out of them all, Chris Woods has impressed a lot of people there with his coaching. I don't know if he can take all the credit for De Gea's improvement this season, because he's been improving for a while.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's natural development.
But it would not surprise me in the slightest if Chris Woods remained at United when the new regime arrives.
Well, if you look on Twitter, or even the Daily Mail have it right now that Ian Ladyman has gone for that story, basically that Chris Woods has impressed a lot of people at Old Trafford and Carrington, obviously, but.
He may have robbed that off me, because I had that as an exclusive earlier. But it's been known.
So we're going to have Ladyman on tomorrow. Going to be giving out about you next.
Sorry?
He's going to be giving out about you tomorrow on Straight News TV.
You can feel free, he's a good guy. That'll be. We put the story out online tonight at 10:30, and it's on the back of tomorrow's Manchester Evening News. that's just at the bottom of the piece, really saying that Woods is impressed, and it wouldn't be surprising if he remained at the club.
I mean, just going into Giggs' presser tomorrow, what can we expect?
It's a fascinating one, isn't it? I'm not going to be there because it's midnight now, and I'm not getting up that. I'm actually doing Pellegrini tomorrow at 1:30, which will be interesting in itself after what Mourinho said. But it's fascinating. I think he's quite a complex guy, Giggs, and he will speak quite well. He's clearly enthusiastic about it. Straight away, he's put a spring in everybody's step. He knows that he's got a few, 4 games left to basically send United out on a high note. There's no pressure, and I think he's expecting a return to. I don't really want to say swashbuckling style because that devalues it a little bit, but it will certainly be a much more attacking United side. I'd be very surprised if it was everybody back for corners, and I would imagine he'll reflect that in his press conference tomorrow. I think he'll be very upbeat. I think he'll be relaxed about it. He's in a no loss situation, really. What's the worst that can happen?
Do you reckon there'll be any awkward situations? Do you reckon anyone will be allowed to mention the word David Moyes?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think he'll be prepared for that, definitely.
Do you reckon there'll be any stern words said?
No, there won't. He'll I think he'll speak quite highly of David Moyes. I'd be amazed if he said anything other than nice things about him. And I think it'll be a nice press conference to be at, that one, I would imagine.
I don't think he'll do what David Moyes did to him and ignore Giggsy. But just one question before we wrap it up. Mike.
Giggsy might say he's got him in to do his yoga lessons for him because he's managing now.
Just one question before we let you go is, we're not asking if you got information or not, but if you were if you were a gambling man, you would £10.
Yeah.
Manchester United's next manager.
Depends on what odds you're giving me on each now. At the moment, I mean, we're really early into it, but at the moment, I would say Louis van Gaal. I think it makes the most sense with regard, and it'd be great for us personality-wise. I don't know whether it would be too great for the press officers down there, but he would certainly inject a bit of interest into it. He's very self-assured. I think he's a decent fit. He is, in a manager, what you would expect from a Manchester United manager. He's very confident. He plays attacking football. He's assured. He's, as I said, he's confident but not cocky. And I think that is what United need. He is a relatively safe pair of hands. He's tried and tested. I think one big thing will be the story that's in tomorrow's paper about United have got two, in some cases, 3 players lined up for each position. These are talks that have been going on for 6 or 7 months. Somebody like Van Gaal will know straight away which one of those players he wants. He'll know all about them. So they would be able to go to Van Gaal maybe even before the World Cup starts. They might have even done it already and said, look, if you want the job, these are the players we've got lined up. Tell us which ones you want. We'll get them. And when you start after the World Cup, they're there waiting for you.
But so I think it is interesting with Van Gaal, and you've gone about like how interesting it'd be from a journalistic point of view and interviews and press conferences and so on. But if you read Ian Ladyman and Mark Ogden were telling the story on Twitter recently that they were covering a story a few years back, and they were in a hotel or some sort, and they were manhandled out of the hotel by Louis van Gaal. He's not supposed to be at all times the most pleasant, but he does have a real presence. And when he walks into the room, you do get this feeling that you want to sit down and really listen to what he has to say because he's interesting.
Yeah, and those guys will build, as we all will, hopefully, if it is Van Gaal, will build a relationship with him. You know, they'll see him once, twice, 3 times a week. He'll get to know them. It can be quite. I've only experienced it under David Moyes, but it can be quite, not intimate. That's the wrong word, but it can be quite a close environment when there's 5 or 6 of you gathered around with the manager. I know that Moyes relaxed a lot more when the cameras were switched off. He was like a different person when he was speaking to us rather than the broadcast people. And it can be quite an enjoyable thing where there's 6 of you sat around a table, quite relaxed, just having a chat about things. So I think he will build relationships with the Manchester media, and I think he would be great for us. He's colourful, he's interesting, he's educated, and he'll fill some column inches, hopefully, if it is him.
Final question. Chances of René Mullenstein making a shock return to Manchester United under Van Gaal?
Well, he's not doing anything else, is he? I think it was a shame.
I mean, poor guy's been so unlucky. You know, he was sacked after a couple of weeks in Angie, and then he's sacked a couple of months later at Fulham. He doesn't get much chance, poor guy.
I don't know. I think Fulham were right to get rid of him. There was only one way they were going. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he's not had the biggest crack of the whip with regards to management, but I think even he might admit that he's more suited to coaching now. I mean, he had the crack in, was it in Denmark? He had the first crack. He was asking the players to compare themselves to animals and who's the lion and who's the zebra, and it didn't go down too well. It wouldn't surprise me. I know that Van Persie was a big fan of Rennie's and was quite upset when he left. I thought that was one of Moyes' errors to offer him the job with the kids rather than staying with the first team.
Is that what he offered Rennie?
Yeah, I'm sure that the story was out there that he offered him the job to stay at United, but it was in charge of the youth setup rather than working with the first team. And I think René wasn't too enamoured with that and packed his bags. So it wouldn't surprise me, especially if it was Van Gaal. Because you've got your Van Persie there. Van Gaal comes in, he'll be tried and tested. I actually don't know, and I'll have to check out whether they've got any kind of relationship, Van Gaal and Mullenstein, because as far as I'm aware, they might hate each other. But it would make sense if they don't.
Thanks a million for speaking to us, Mike. We'll hopefully get you on again soon, in the summer maybe, or start of next season, depending on who we get in charge. Make sure you subscribe to Stretty News TV for more videos of this sort, like, comments, and so on. We'll have a preview for Norwich coming up soon too, so make sure you check that out. Thanks for watching.